You
course. Let's
ready?
go. I'm all ready. Yeah.
Nice. All right, so Armand, so you are a French backpacker that's traveling all around New Zealand on a gap year, and
Yeah.
yeah, you've been chronicling your story with us right here on the channel with the video weekly, telling us what happens during your gap year, which is pretty cool. And this week we are celebrating your 26th week in New
Wow.
Zealand, which is half a year.
It's insane how quickly time flies. Like half of my working holidays are already over. No.
I know that was quite insane.
Insane. Yeah.
So you have traveled around New Zealand with Kiwi Experience, which is a hop on hop
Yeah.
off bus, and yeah, you were talking to me and you were telling me all the feedback you had about Kiwi Experience, and I thought that would be a great thing for people to hear. So both your feedback is going to be used in two different ways. Obviously, it's going to help us update NZ Pocket Guide. I personally haven't traveled with Kiwi Experience for many years now, especially because of COVID. So just getting some fresh feedback is pretty cool. But all the comments that you're gonna make in this video are all yours. Obviously, they don't represent what NZ Pocket Guide thinks. We're obviously going to be doing all our research. But with all of that, out of the way, here's how we're going to split the video for everybody, for the viewers. First up, we're going to do the pros of traveling with Kiwi Experience, or with traveling with hop-on, hop-off buses in general. Second, we're going to do the cons of traveling with hop-on, hop-off in general, so the things that don't go so well. And lastly, you prepared a few tips that you wish you knew before traveling with Kiwi Experience and before taking on a hop-on, hop-off bus to share with some people which are about to begin on this journey. But before we begin, a little bit of context, Armand. So explain to us how much you have done out of the Kiwi Experience Network and how much of your travel have you done with them?
So I came to New Zealand in early October, and I was obviously when I was in Auckland, it was just using the like a local AT network, and in Wellington. So I really started using the Kiwi Experience for the first time when I went from Auckland to Rotorua. This is the first portion of the, actually, I believe it's called the funky chicken, which is the main like component of it, the main journey.
So you've
And
done
I
you've
did,
done pretty much the entire main route already?
yeah, I've done it all by now. By
Okay.
the time I'm making this video, I've done I think every nook and cranny, every place that Kiwi Experience goes to. Actually, so I did the first part I did was Auckland to Rotorua. So it goes to, I believe it's Hot Water Beach, Cathedral Cove, Waitomo, and Rotorua. And I stopped in Rotorua. I stayed there for like a month. I worked at an orchard. It was in Kiwi fruit. I really loved that city, by the way, Rotorua. So it was a really nice experience there.
So Armand is a
And
really big fan of the Polynesian spa. There's multiple
yeah, I
episodes
love
of him
Rotorua.
going there. So if you guys
Honestly,
want to
yeah,
check that out on the channel, yeah.
yeah. If I had one place to just chill in New Zealand, by default it would be Rotorua, because yeah, just love that place. But anyways, yeah, I did this first Auckland to Rotorua portion in like I think it was 4 days or so, and then I stayed. Then I went back to Auckland and worked at this company in it was office work for like 2 months. Then I quit my job and did the Cape. I think it's called the Pahia Bay and Cape. I think it's called the
Yeah. So you
Northern
done the
Explorer
Northland
Park.
section, yeah.
Yeah, and that was also 4 days. Then so I had to take the intercity bus from Auckland to Rotorua because once you've done a certain portion of the journey, you can't do that again unless you finish the whole loop at least once. So I took the intercity to Rotorua, and then 2 days later, I continued doing the whole of like basically from Rotorua all the way down to Milford Sound, and then now I'm in Wellington, back in the North Island. I've pretty much done because now I just have to go back to Taupo and Auckland in 2 days. So
Nice.
yeah, I did everything. The rest of the like the whole southern part, I did it with the minimum number of days at each place, and we're going to delve into this more thoroughly, of course. But I
Yeah.
have some important things to say on this.
All right, so since you've done most of the Q Experience network over the last few weeks, let's get started with the pros. I always like to start
Yeah.
with something a bit more cheerful. So, what did you like about hop on and hop off buses in New Zealand?
So yes, I have compiled a list to make sure I don't omit anything. Obviously, there is the bread and butter of this whole concept, which is the flexibility, right? So I like the fact that you can stay at each place as long as you want and just hop off and hop off as you please. But I should also say that it's good to plan ahead, especially during the high season, because many people were taken a bit aback by the fact that right now, to my knowledge, you can't even get the passes anymore because they're being sold out. Like, you know, that's one of my I spoke to it with one of my friends who also was interested in the pass, but he can't even buy it anymore because
Yeah,
there's
so
lots of
that's a
backpackers.
constraint. That's a constraint of the
Yeah.
post-COVID world. So obviously things probably are going to stabilize a
Everybody
little bit
just was
more. Yeah,
itching
yeah,
to
yeah,
come to New Zealand.
yeah,
Everybody was just
yeah.
yeah, and you can see that yeah, there's a flood of backpackers, which is awesome because
So
yeah,
you do like the
but
concept of what Hop on Hop Off provides.
yeah,
Anything
yeah,
else that
and
you liked?
also I've also seen that people, for example, initially they were planning on staying at a place like Queenstown for just 3 nights, and then when they get there, they were so amazed that they decided to just extend their stay. And many hostels also provide you with the possibility of just extending on the spot, and you can just go to the trip planner, the Kiwi Experience trip planner, and change your date of the next hop on. So this is really nice. The other main thing which I really enjoyed is obviously the social component of it, especially if, like me, you're traveling alone. It's nice to be surrounded by other like-minded people,
You never really
and
travel
it was
alone,
really
let's be
fun.
honest.
No, no, that was really my first big, yeah, that was, and yeah, I really love the fact that everybody was so chill and friendly, and yeah, I think especially if you're alone, it really makes sense not to be like because if you're in a group or even as a couple, then you can makes a lot of probably sense to rent a van or but yeah, this was really cool. I met lots of people. I met really good friends whom I might actually someday visit at their own places back home. Yeah, my
Nice.
Instagram followers skyrocketed.
So speaking of Instagram, you were telling me about photo stops. Is that one of the things you really like as well?
Oh yeah, yeah. This is actually something I wasn't expecting, but I feel like we had many, many, many photo stops along basically each uh, journey we took from each city to one city to another. And but people were basically sometimes even dozing off because we were kind of tired because of the lack of sleep. But then the driver said, "Okay, here is a very nice spot to take some photos, so we're gonna stop." And we had lots of those. And as a photographer, I was really spoiled on that front. Like so many beautiful scenic spots we stopped at. And this is something obviously the intercity won't provide you with. This is more like of just the transportation experience for more locals. But yeah, this is really nice. And um,
Yeah, and speaking of all the stops, so usually, like obviously, those stops are organized by your drivers, right? And you have had a couple of different
yeah,
drivers so far. What do you think about the
yeah.
drivers?
I've had four of them.
Okay,
And I'd say that every single one of them was very professional, very helpful, and as I'd expect in New Zealand now, like everybody has been so helpful and cooperative and flexible. Um, and obviously they have different personalities. They're human beings. Some are a bit less talkative. Some like to give more insight and talk a bit more about the history of the places we went to. And gave some interesting anecdotes, historical facts and stuff. But overall, all of them, I really liked them. Yeah, there were some people who are younger, older. Yeah, nothing to. It was really good. The drivers, shout out to all of them. I remember Fraser, Martin. Um, the latest one was Hamish. All of them amazing people. Yeah.
nice. So they're more than just driver; they're also you guys, basically.
Yeah, exactly. They
Nice.
do talk a bit about the history of New Zealand, about each place, its legends, everything that happened there. And it's really nice. Yeah.
So let's move on to complaining. After all, you need to release this little Frenchman anger from time to time, right? With a bit of a rant.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You know how it
All
is.
right. So let's go over what part of the hop on hop off didn't really work so well for you, and we'll go point by point to kind of like deconstruct
Yeah.
them a little bit.
So the first thing that I noticed, and this is a very minor gripe, it's like I'm nitpicking, but originally when I got the whole kit and caboodle pass, and you could see it on the map that they provided us on the website. you saw that it went also to Invercargill. I don't know if that's how it's pronounced, by the way, but
Yeah. Uh,
and even the driver told us that before the pandemic, it used to stop at Wanaka, and now it doesn't because there is like a hostel shortage at that place or whatever. But that was a bummer because we didn't even have time to really see the Wanaka tree because we stopped for lunch for like half an hour basically, you know.
Okay,
And
so
yeah,
so just to give some context, the whole kit and caboodle is basically the entire Kiwi Experience network, which is something that you can purchase is as part of the options. You can purchase as a client either just the North Island, just the South Island, just some certain sections, and buying something called the whole kit and caboodle is the whole network. So yeah, that is probably so that it was just for context. Now following up on that feedback, that is probably a byproduct of COVID, right? A lot of hostels have
yeah,
closed down due to the pandemic, and things may just even out a little bit. Also, Kiwi Experience is restarting their service after about 3 years hiatus, right?
yeah,
And so for that reason, I do think that that this will even out. But it's a valid feedback. If you pay for something, you should be getting exactly what you pay for and not being short change on some section. So it's a very valid feedback. But maybe for somebody that's watching this video in like 2025, this may not apply anymore, and the map may be more accurate. But one
yes,
tip that we
yeah.
could give to people would be to contact the sales team and ask how accurate the current map on the website is prior to purchasing, I guess.
Yeah. And also regarding the whole like financial component aspect of it,
Yep.
because I got the pass for one, it was at the time of when I bought it, it was 1,600 New Zealand dollars.
Yep.
Now it's a bit more expensive due to inflation. It's 1,760, I believe. But depending on your circumstances and like how long you're planning on staying in New Zealand, it may or may not be cost effective for you to get this pass, especially whether you're traveling alone or if you can buy a van with other people and split the costs, you know. For me, I think it's going to be worth it because I'm planning on probably doing the at least parts of the journey again, and it does provide you with unlimited travel. I'm putting this in kind of brackets because you should do the whole thing at least once before you can actually take another like part of the journey. You know, you can't just do, for example, Auckland to Rotorua and then do that again. You have to complete the whole loop, and you can't do like those any of the extras again.
Yeah.
So it's just the funky chicken that you can.
Okay,
Yeah.
so just to give some more example right here for anyone which is watching and just looking into it, when you get unlimited travel, some sections are not unlimited. So, for example, doing just the Northland section is not unlimited. You will be only able to only do it once. It is just the main core of both islands that you'll be able to do multiple times, and there are some conditions attached to that. Armand has dabbled on a few of them, and you're more than welcome to kind of look at the term and condition to see that there are some extra conditions on there. Now, when coming, when talking about the cost, obviously, making sure to calculate if the cost is worth it. And we do have some article on NZ Pocket Guide talking about budgeting for traveling on hop-off buses. It's quite important because just that upfront price, for example, Armand that paid $1,600 for his bus tour, that doesn't include pretty much not the accommodation, the food, the activities. So your budget is going to slowly kind of skyrocket, and you're paying mostly for transportation and the social aspect of it, and obviously the guiding, the guiding from the driver, but that's what you're paying for, and there is a lot of extra cost onto it. So sometimes we do have some people that give us feedback and talk to us and say, hey, I bought that hop-off bus pass, and it turned out to cost way more than that. And so is it something you can speak to a little bit, like how much do you feel like you're spending on an average day when you're on the road?
Yeah, so this is actually quite variable, especially I'd say because the hostels are not that expensive, to be fair. But the food, because at the places where we went to, especially in the South Island, if you decide to eat quite often at restaurants like me, it can be quite expensive. But if you plan ahead and buy your groceries at like I think it's Four Squares or Countdown and
Yeah.
New World, then you'd obviously better off. But yeah, I think that's something that shouldn't weigh too much, depending on how you manage things. But no, it wasn't shocking to me, to be honest, anything. But yeah, food is going to be more expensive in some places like Westport. I saw avocados for like $4 each, and yeah, the South Island, some places are definitely more expensive
We live in a
if you
remote
don't know where
places
to
of the
look.
world. Yeah, it comes with
Yeah,
it
yeah.
comes with a bit of a price
Some
tag.
vegetables, especially food, is quite can be quite expensive.
Yeah.
If you really go a bit further, like if you go to pack and save, it's gonna cost you less.
All right. So
Um,
basically, if you're watching this before buying one of your hop on hop off bus pass, make sure you do your math and you know if that's the right
yeah,
that's the right way of transportation for your budget. Okay. So do you have anything else on your list for your cons? I know there is quite a
yeah. So
list.
I loosely touched on the fact that again, you don't really get to when you're on the hop on hop off bus, as opposed to, for example, having your own transportation like a van or a car. You don't get to stay as long as you want to at the specific stop because obviously we're having stops for people to rest, to go to the toilet and stuff. And you won't get to, for example, explore because when we went through from what was it? We went through Christchurch. We stayed for like 45 minutes there. If you're just doing and for example, if you wanted to explore a bit more, then yeah, in that case, you'd have to stay for a couple of days there. But if you have planned ahead before, like you've obviously booked your journey, so you don't get to stop there longer and see things. That's just you have to stick obviously with the bus, otherwise you'll miss it. So maybe,
So what you're saying is that on a
that's
scheduled
kind of
day you felt a little bit rushed compared to kind of staying a couple of
yeah.
days
And
in each of the
people felt that
places.
some of the stops were a bit really quick, too quickly. Like sometimes we had like barely 20 minutes to eat lunch at some places. It'd be nice to, and even like, for example, you could see on the trip planner that we were supposed to arrive, I don't know where it was, at like 6, but we arrived there at like 3, which means that something was sacrificed along the way, the
Yeah.
way to get us earlier to, yeah. Uh, but yeah, this wasn't much of a problem again. It was just to stay longer at each place if you want to like get the most complete experience. And enjoy the uh, landscapes. Yeah.
All right. So speaking of this,
Apart
the
from that,
scheduling, the full day, do you like how did you feel about like the start, the end? Like, do you feel like you had full days of travel every time,
yeah.
or
So about that, I felt like sometimes it was really we had really short nights because sometimes we got to the next city or town quite late, but it's not necessarily like the Kiwi experience is fault because, for example, when we had the inter-island ferry booked at Wellington, we had a massive 7 hours delay. So we ended up getting to Abel Tasman at like it was almost midnight. And the day after, because I had booked the kayaking, I had to wake up at like 6, you know. And but even that aside, the departures almost every morning are like at 7 or 8. We had 1 or 2 departures at like 9, but for the most part, you have to wake up really early. And if you're the partying type, which I'm not, it's even harder. Like you could see people on the bus like like
yeah?
dozing off, and it's kind of a shame because you can't really enjoy the vistas then, the scenic journeys. But
Yeah, so I'm
yeah,
laughing because obviously
compromises.
when we travel, we start, and even like most of the days, we start around 5 a.m. when we travel. So we kind of like, we like to start really early. But I can
Yeah,
see like with an environment created by those kind of hop on a hop off bus, which is very social. It's social. You're gonna
yeah,
party. You're gonna want to hang out with people that you
yeah,
meet. At that point, you may kind of want to actually take part onto that pub crawl or just having that extra beer at the bar,
yeah, yeah,
and but that means that you've got to be in a
exactly.
bus still on the next day at 7 a.m. So you kind of need to be aware of that. So maybe one of the tip will be to actually tell people to actually ask or check their planner if it's accurate. Check their
Yeah,
planner and know at what time they're leaving on the next morning to kind of plan their
yes,
night accordingly. Because sometimes it's a bit of a
yeah,
rush, and there is always this 1 hour of zombie experience that I used to like calling. The first hour when you get in the bus is the zombie experience for an hour, and then people slowly wake up.
yeah. And also, the thing is that because we had to pack basically like every morning or the night before, this also adds some extra time to make sure you don't forget anything.
Yeah.
And yeah, the other thing is about the hostels. I feel like the quality was quite uneven. Some of them were really good, but most of them were quite mediocre. But I don't really have a point of comparison elsewhere. But I've been told that hostels are better, like in Asia. Um, and based on the reviews I've seen on Hostel World, that seems to be the case. But I say that yeah, they were okay, nothing too crazy. But the ones in Westport and Franz Joseph were just amazing.
Did you
We
stay in
had like
Basil's in
spas.
Westport? Is that correct?
Yes, yeah, I really liked that one.
Yeah. No,
It had
I do
different
really like
vibes
those
to
guys.
it, like
The
the
two owners are
colorful.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and we were in tents and no bunk beds. That was really nice.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
everything
so when
cool.
you come down to kind of deconstructing this feedback, honestly, there's kind of no way to kind of cut it out. Like they do have. So the couple of things I'm going to say is that first up, their recommended hostel is going to be the hostel that works with the company, right? So that's usually hostel which
Yeah,
are
yeah,
larger and they usually be more like they're just not the best hostel. There's no way to put it. It's not the best hostel, but you don't necessarily have to
yeah.
stay on that hostel, right? There is this peer pressure.
Sure.
You're making
Yeah,
friends, you want to stay with your
exactly.
friend because everybody's staying here, and that's kind of like that's
Mm,
how it
yeah,
is, right? And that's why they work with selected hostels,
yeah,
so those hostels can host everybody and they obviously get a commission, like the bus company get a commission out of booking the hostel for you.
yeah,
But you
yeah.
can go to another hostel if you want to and get a better experience, and we strongly recommend you to do that if you decide to stay longer in a location. If you, let's say you arrive in
Yes.
Rotorua and you decide to stay there for like a month because there's so much to do there and you're on your
Mm,
gap
mm,
year, epic. Just don't
yeah,
stay in a hostel which is recommended and actually pick a hostel which is well reviewed. We list some of our favorite hostel on the website, and so yeah. So, but yeah, the hostel which is pushed and recommended, and same thing for the activities which are pushed and recommended by the driver, are only a very small section of what's available. Is the one that works with the company.
yeah. But as I said, each place the bare minimum number of nights. For me, it wasn't too much of an issue. But if I had, as you said, if I had to stay longer,
Yeah.
I would have definitely done my diligence and looked at the reviews prior and
Yeah,
booked
usually
something
for the
more
one night it's
comfortable. Yeah.
fine. Yeah, it's definitely.
Yeah, exactly. It's not. None of them were terrible, to be
Yeah.
clear. You know,
And did
just
you
yeah.
enjoy staying in hostels? I mean, I love the social part of hostel. I absolutely, I
Yes,
dig
that's the
hostels
so
so
that's
so so
I
much.
say that's the main draw and the main benefit as opposed to like Airbnbs and motels. It's just the socializing of it. Everybody was just we had so much fun and um, yeah, everybody was just very cheerful and I met tons of people from many different countries. Yeah, it's just very I'd say fruitful experiences, interactions with people. You know.
Nice.
So you're basically compromising a bit of comfort for the thrill of discovery and yeah, that kind of
Oh, I'm addicted to hostel. I absolutely love it, and yeah, it's still my favorite type of accommodation.
yeah.
So you keep on talking about everybody, and you keep on talking about your group. Do you want to tell me a little bit more about the group that you were traveling with?
Yeah, so this is quite interesting because the first time I hopped on the bus again in November, it was like mostly 99%, if not 100% Europeans. And we had a lot of Danish people and Brits on the bus, no French. And to be honest, I only met one French guy during my 4 times I took the bus and the whole journey. And it was just for like one trip from one place to another as he hopped off and I continued. But yeah, one thing that I noticed and I wasn't expecting it is there was not a whole lot of diversity when it came to the nationalities, like mostly European. And I say that the backpackers on that bus are not representative of. It's not a good sample that to represent the backpackers as a whole in New Zealand. Because, for example, we have lots of French backpackers and South Americans in New Zealand, but I didn't meet any of them on that bus. Mostly like yeah, Danish, British, Germans, and that's pretty much it, you know.
Yeah, so to speak to that, I mean,
So
it has
yeah,
been the experience of pretty much all the people that we've talked to, and even my personal experience and Laura's experience as well when traveling with these kind of buses. It's always very, very, very busy with Brits. People from the UK do really like that, and
yeah,
it's sold in trove by travel agencies in the UK. It's a product which is very much pushed, and so you mostly will stay with European. There is always like some random
yeah,
people which like some Chilean which get completely lost and is not with his kind, and you're like, what? It's great, and you love
yeah,
that. You kind of like, yeah. But very often it is like going to be British, Germans, and all that, and yeah, it is a very like not really as much of a melting pot as usually it is kind of dreamt to be, right? When you go in a
yeah,
hostel, right, you
and
get an amazing array of people, but when you travel in the
yeah,
bus, then you get like just this just the Brits and the Germans, and that's basically what you have. And sometimes even worse,
Yeah.
what happens is that you get stuck with a group. Sometimes you get like a group of like 8 or 10 people which travel together, and they're gonna kind of give the vibe to the bus, right? And so that will happen. So that's
Yeah,
why
and
we always
exactly.
push
So,
people. Yeah,
for
sorry.
example, mm, sorry, the Danish had booked actually through a travel agency.
Yeah.
So they were all like sticking together, and when we had like the Brits and the Germans, and I was the free electron, the like the kind of
Yeah, so that's what
but
it is sometimes. So, but when you stay in a hostel, then you're gonna find like the Chilean. I keep on saying Chilean
yeah,
because one of my best mate that I met in the Kiwi experience bus was from
mm,
Chile, right? And then you're gonna
yeah,
find those people and you're gonna be able to create connections and everything with them and hang out with
yeah,
them and everything. But usually, like it is very much like a couple of type of people, and that's pretty much it.
yeah.
Yeah,
But it was also cool because I kind of felt original among all of them, and I still socialized with
yeah.
everyone. Like it was still fun. Everybody was friendly, no complaints on that front at all.
Yeah, and usually the bus driver works really well to kind of try to make the group like
Yeah,
coalesce
yeah,
together
yeah,
and actually bond together, which
yeah.
is quite good. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So
Anyways, you have to
yeah,
stay at like a different dorm, so you will end
yeah,
up like socializing with people, even if you're not the socializing type, because well, you're sharing the
yeah,
beds and the rooms.
yeah. And you often sharing activities as well. Speaking of activities,
Yeah,
so was
exactly.
it easy to kind of do everything you wanted to do through the trip planner, or was you because that's something that you hinted
So the
at the
trip
beginning?
planner is something. Okay, so the trip planner, we all had mixed feelings with it, even to be honest, like the drivers, because sometimes it's a bit confusing. For example, many of us didn't even know that we had to get the inter-islander ferry from the activity section of the trip planner, because it feels like it's just a part of the journey, like the ride. And also, sometimes it's not clear that some activities overlap with each other. So if you get them beforehand, which I did the first time around, the first time I took the bus, I didn't know that if I took the Waitomo like glowworms thing, I couldn't do the other one, you
So
know.
you mean you
And
wanted to see the glowworm caves, but you couldn't do the black wall rafting, for
uh,
instance, because they were happening at the same
exactly,
time.
exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. That's the thing I didn't know. But then I realized that it's better actually because basically you buy the activity on the trip planner, you pay for it, and then the bus driver is going to hand over a clipboard that everybody is going to pass along the bus, and then that's how you actually book it.
Yeah.
So yeah, and also like the trip planner, it had a minor like a glitch because it showed that I was at two different places on the same day, which was impossible. So I reached out to them and they were really helpful. They told me, no, you are not staying at Christchurch. You're going directly to Kaikoura.
So the
Yeah,
multiverse is not there. Maybe there's two almonds. Who knows? Yeah. So
yeah,
obviously one of the things that everybody needs to know, right? For if you're traveling with the hop on hop off bus, and we hinted at it during the pro section, right? The main draw of it is the flexibility. So don't pretty much book nothing beforehand and just book as you go. See what the vibe is. See what the weather is. See what your new best friend that you just met in the bus wants to do and do it with them. Like there is so much flexibility embedded in there,
mm,
and obviously it's to their credit. They try to sell you extra things, when you purchase it because you want to lock customer in quickly, right? But you want to actually just buy things kind of last minute when the clipboard passes along the bus. That's the best way to actually book your activities.
yeah. I should give credit to the bus drivers because they were quite candid with us and told us if they deemed like an activity not worth it or that kind of thing. And they told us if, for example, an activity could be canceled due to bad weather or how it would. So shout out to them. Yeah.
Nice. So it
Um,
looks like
yeah.
you did learn quite a lot of life lessons through your Kiwi
Yes, lots of
experience
them. Oh,
bus, which is really good. But if you look back at it, so if you put yourself into almonds, like 6 months ago, would you buy it again? Would you buy that bus pass again?
oh, absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. I wouldn't even think twice because it has been such an enlightening experience for me. Like I have grown so much stronger and wiser through this just a couple of weeks that I spent doing on the Kiwi Experience Bus in New Zealand as a whole, but even more so like with the Kiwi Experience Bus because some unexpected things happened. But it just taught me to roll with the punches and make the best of anything.
Yeah.
And I've become a much more flexible and easy-going person through it, I think.
Nice.
And I am, yeah, yeah. It's
You're not paid by Kiwi Experience to say all that, right?
Yeah,
This is not
absolutely.
a sponsored video, guys, by the way.
Oh,
So let's talk about tips. So there was a lot
yeah,
of good points for people to consider before purchasing their Kiwi Experience bus pass, or even any of the hop on hop of bus pass for that matter, because they all kind of work the same way and they all have like the similar
yeah,
kind of pros and cons. So I think that you have helped a lot of people, but I know that you have prepared a bit of a list of things that you wish you knew kind of before traveling
yeah,
on the
yeah,
hop on hop bus. So
yeah.
do you want to run through it for us a little
Yeah,
bit?
so even though I bear no regret with the decision of getting the Kiwi Express Pass, there are some things I wish I had done differently in hindsight. First, it comes to the packing. Like when we went to the south, it got really cold, especially in Queenstown and Lake Tekapo, and we were not expecting. Like practically no one was equipped for the winter temperature because it was like two
And
to
just to make
three
it
degrees.
clear, you were traveling in the first month, the last month of summer and the first month of autumn. You
Yeah,
were not
it's
traveling in
crazy.
winter. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's,
cool.
and I read this article on New Zealand newspaper saying that there was a polar blast, you know. So this is not a
Yeah.
typical, obviously, uh, like temperature for this time of the year. But yeah, you know, these things happen more than people may think in New Zealand. And you should always pack for every scenario and condition. So pack many layers, jumpers. I wish I had brought more jumpers. Yeah, and also on
Pack
the
more
flip side,
layers. We talk about layers all the time on the
yeah,
channel.
you
We
said
keep
it.
on talking about layers. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And like also I did pack some things that turned out to be quite useless in
Okay.
retrospect.
So what is it that
They
you shouldn't pack?
For example, I took this is my experience. You might make good use of it, but my binoculars, I never used them. You know, they were quite heavy and cumbersome, but I never really used them because I was like I had a telephoto lens anyways. If I
Yeah.
wanted to see something, I could just zoom in and take the photo. But yeah, there was some stuff that I took and really really used that many. Like I packed many t-shirts, but not enough like jumpers. You know.
Yeah.
And I would definitely recommend packing light because my suitcase is relatively heavy, and if you have to unload it and load it on the bus every day, it's kind of annoying.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot
Yeah.
of packing and unpacking for sure. All right. Any
Yeah.
other things that you wish you would have done better?
Yeah, so the biggest I say regret I had is not staying longer at each place because I was not expecting to not be able to do nearly as many activities as I couldn't do. For like I said that maybe a third or even half of the things I was looking forward to doing I couldn't do this time around, and I think it makes more sense to just stay longer at each place rather than having to do the thing twice, you know, coming back, because then you're also going to have to do like all the bus journeys, which kind of, let's be honest, are tiring, and once you've seen the scenery, it's just so yeah, like the bungee jumping got cancelled, the whitewater rafting got cancelled, the heli hike got cancelled, and the what's it called, the dolphin swim, you know. And there are probably others which I don't recall, but yeah, I'd say that this is just one of the reasons why I would recommend staying longer. The activities. The other one is just to be able to catch your breath, because after just like 10 days, I'm really tired now, and it's not just me. Anyone who's been like moving from hostel to hostel, you know, it's
Oh,
nice to settle down a
I
bit
cannot agree anymore.
and just to yeah, because moving from hostel to hostel can kind of make you feel burnt out, and you just lose it. But thankfully, everybody is so friendly, and every place we've been to was so scenic and beautiful that it doesn't feel as hard as it would have been on maybe elsewhere. You know,
No, that's for sure.
feel very
And
much enjoyable.
there's a lot of very, very much weather-related activities in New Zealand, as you mentioned, the swimming with dolphins in Kaikoura or taking one of the heli hike in Franz Joseph. They are notoriously cancelled super, super, super often, right? So for that
Yeah,
reason, it
yeah.
is quite important to take some extra days along the way, both from catching your breath and also be able to do those iconic activities. If you think they must be on your bucket list, you've got to take more
Yeah,
time.
I say at least in Rotorua, Queenstown, Franz Joseph, and maybe Lake Tekapo, we stay a couple of days more
Yeah.
than like the bare minimum because yeah, you just won't be able to do everything. It's just impossible.
Yeah. No, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Any other tips that you wanted to share with people?
The last tip I'd say is just don't overthink too much things. Just roll with the punches. Keep your spirits up. Unexpected things are bound to happen when you're in that kind of journey, and just make the best of it. Whatever like throws at you, stay positive, and you're gonna have a blast. Honestly, I have, and yeah, I'm so grateful I did it.
Nice. All right, everybody. So that's going to wrap up our kind of insight into traveling with Kiwi Experience and with any kind of hop on hop off buses in New Zealand. We've got plenty of tips on nzpocketguide.com. So that's in the transportation section. Then you click on bus, and then there is really a lot of information for you to be able to understand the concept better. A lot of tips how to budget. Tips. We have for example, a list of like 15 tips that you should know before you go on one of those kind of bus. There is a lot of information out there for you, and it's all free to use. And if you want to see more of Armand, there is also his video series on our channel where every single week he kind of just recaps a little bit what happens to him, and you can see some of his stunning photography and some selfies as well. There's not just the stunning shots. We also use the selfies. But yeah, that's pretty it. Armand, is there a last word you want to say?
Long live New Zealand. I love this place. I'm so glad I'm here.
Nice. So you are at the Te Papa Museum right now. Do you want to show quickly around, show the people that you are at the museum?
Yeah, if I can just so not too much to cover here because I'm like the remotest place of it.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I think there's a okay. So
That's the entrance, right?
that's actually the upper
Wowie.
level.
Oh yeah. Okay, yeah, I can picture where we are. Yeah,
So they have
nice.
this exhibition which I haven't been to yet. But this is actually like I think it's the best museum I've ever been to.
Nice.
Which is
It's
crazy
one of my
because it's
favorite.
free
Plus,
and
there is free Wi-Fi as well, which is pretty awesome.
yeah.
All right, Armand, thank you very much for joining us for this
My
video, mate.
pleasure.
You're
Always
awesome.
glad to be helpful.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Cheers. Bye.